What's up, YouTube and my fellow engaged Washingtonians? My name's Eric. Welcome to my little YouTube channel, I America. Hey, I wanted to put together a little video here regarding some legislation that's being pushed through the Washington State Legislature 2023-2024 session, specifically regarding some of what I call victimization assurance bills or self-defense prevention bills that basically seeks to strip or confuse Washington State's gun rights or their laws governing the citizens' gun rights. Anyway, specifically in this video, I wanted to talk about House Bill 1178, which was put to a public hearing yesterday on the 17th of January 2023. Anyway, let's jump right into it and take a look. I'm going to play you a short clip and then we'll kind of talk about it. And remember, I'm not a lawyer, I'm just sort of an engaged citizen. So, might make some mistakes and things, but we'll figure it out and learn along the way. So let's go. Let's give it a shot. I'm going to pull up the video here. So this is Representative Drew Hansen, the committee chair of the House Civil Rights and Judiciary Committee. And let's hear what Drew has to say and all of the people regarding House Bill 1178.
1178 with a staff briefing, Mr. Sterling.
Good morning, Chair Hansen and committee members. For the record, my name is Matt Sterling, staff to the committee. House Bill 1178 concerns the state preemption of local jurisdictions from adopting laws relating to firearms.
Okay, so House Bill 1178 has to do with the state preemption law in RCW 9.41.290. Basically, what this does is it limits smaller jurisdictions from making over burdensome gun laws on the Washington state citizens. It's the state's the final say, and it means that a city or a county can't create their own set of laws. So what House Bill 1178 does is it's going to remove those laws. So let's continue on.
As background, under the state constitution, local jurisdictions have the authority to adopt and enforce public health, safety, and other laws unless in conflict with the general laws of the state. The statutes governing firearms contain a preemption section that expresses an intent to limit the authority of local jurisdictions to pass firearm laws. The law provides that the state fully occupies and preempts the entire field of firearms regulation in the state, and local jurisdictions only may enact laws relating to firearms that are specifically authorized by and consistent with state law.
Okay, so that's really important. Basically reiterated, I think, what I had just said. This is a great pause. Anyway, so it's basically, it sets limitations. Cities and states or cities and counties can't put additional limitations beyond what the state already has. I think there are some avenues about how things are used in those locales, but really the preemption is sort of the law of the land. Washington State.
Jurisdictions are specifically authorized to regulate the discharge of firearms in locations where there is reasonable likelihood that humans, domestic animals, or property will be jeopardized, or in any stadium or convention center operated by local jurisdiction. However, these restrictions may not apply to a pistol in the possession of a person who has a valid concealed pistol license or is exempt from CPL requirements, or any showing, demonstration, or lecture involving the exhibition of firearms. Local jurisdictions may also regulate the areas in which firearms may be sold, as long as businesses selling firearms are not treated more restrictively than other businesses located within the same zone, and a local jurisdiction may restrict the location of a firearms business to not less than 500 feet from any school grounds if the business has a storefront with business hours and posts advertisements that firearms are for sale. House Bill 1170.
Okay, so I'm going to pause this. So what he said before that was how things stand. This is my understanding. And then what he's about to say is how things will be.
Before the committee repeals the statute that preempts local governments from adopting laws relating to firearms and adds a new section stating that nothing in the chapter of law governing firearms affects, modifies, or limits the authority of cities, municipalities, or counties to adopt ordinances or regulations that are in addition to or more restrictive than state laws governing firearms.
Okay, so my understanding is what this bill will do is create sort of a nesting doll effect of laws, or allow for a sort of nesting doll effect, which means the state could have a set of regulations governing firearms, and then the county could then have another more limiting set of regulations governing firearms, and then the cities or towns within that, those those smaller jurisdictions, will then be able to craft and enact their own set of firearm regulations. And so what this does is create has the potential to create very confusion, very confusing set of laws and regulations for people that are trying to follow those laws. Pretty confusing stuff.
That concludes my remarks.
Thank you. Questions for staff? Okay, we have a prime sponsor. Representative Hackney, would you care to tell us about your bill?
Chair Hansen, Ranking Member Walsh, thank you for this opportunity to testify in support of HB 11.
Why is it? Sorry, I have to pause because it's so often so many. Like there's like this intensity in some of these people's eyes that are like pro gun control or pro victimization assurance laws. It's like there's a pressure in their head, and it's like pounding the back of their skull to get out. Anyway, it's it's interesting.
78, which repeals the statute, which preempts local jurisdictions
It repeals the statute.
from enacting laws regarding firearms. And the reason for this is simple. One size fits all doesn't necessarily work. And local jurisdictions should have the authority.
Okay, first of all, that's the Constitution. That's what it's supposed to do, right? I mean, this is why we have equality and equal rights. This is what we fight for in the past as far as civil rights and things like that, because we want it to be a one size fits all thing. I think that's actually the intent. You know, you are free to do a thing just like the other person is free to do a thing. That's it. We don't have a different set of standards and rules for certain things, or at least that's hopefully the idea.
Authority to adopt the kind of gun regulations that are appropriate for their community. There are in South King County, where the 11th district where it exists, we are facing a surge of gun violence. In fact, we experience 70% of all the gun violence in King County.
Okay, so you already have a lawless area, right? These are criminals that are carrying out 70%, according to this gentleman, of the gun crime. They're criminals. They're already breaking the law. You create another law, it's not going to stand in the way of their breaking further laws. So, I mean, to use this idea that somehow this next law is going to fix what the previous law didn't is sort of a flawed line of thinking at this point. What it really is you're not upholding the laws around other things, okay? That's then creating an environment that allows criminal behavior to flourish, and then impact the law-abiding citizens in your jurisdiction. It has nothing to do with law-abiding citizens or adding more laws on. It has to do with the fact that you're just letting the lawlessness happen.
It should be appropriate for those communities to make decisions for themselves on the kind of gun regulations that make sense for them. And we shouldn't have to then impose that on other areas of the state that are not facing a surge in gun violence.
This is kind of interesting because this is exactly what they're doing, right? I mean, by suggesting that the state preemption should be retracted, repealed, and then and allowed other jurisdictions allowed to make their own gun laws, you are basically forcing your own principles and your ideology and what you think is going to be an effective strategy on the rest of the state.
So the preemption by the state of gun laws actually causes harm to communities that don't have the ability to adopt the kind of laws that make sense for them. So I urge that you pass this bill through with a do pass recommendation.
Thank you. That's exemplary brief testimony, which we appreciate. Representative Root has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very brief question, too. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on potential difficulties of a firearm owner, and creating kind of a patchwork of laws around the state, and if that might create any concern about compliance difficulties.
Thank you for that question. I believe that if you take the responsibility of having a firearm, then you should take also the additional responsibility of understanding the local laws.
But again, this is coming from a man whose district has 70% of the gun violence in King County. So who's following the laws in his district? Nobody. So those aren't responsible gun owners. Those aren't people that care about laws enough to do things lawfully in the first place. So the only people that are affected by this are the law-abiding citizens of Washington who want to carry their firearm to protect themselves while in this gentleman's district. Okay, that's not the criminal that's carrying a firearm illegally already, that's acquired it illegally already, that's doing things illegal already. It's not going to affect them at all.
And again, although there may be some inconvenience by not being able to carry your firearm or in the same manner.
Yeah, the inconvenience is if I find it necessary to come into your district to take care of business or to visit family or friends, I now can't defend myself in your lawless district with criminals who don't pay attention to the laws already.
In every jurisdiction. I think the need for local jurisdictions to adopt firearm laws that are applicable to the circumstances they're facing outweighs that concern.
The ranking member has promised a brief follow-up.
Welcome, Rep. Hackney. It's always good to talk to you. The concept behind the existing statute on these matters is that gun rights are not like other rights. They're foundational.
Can we just give a momentary silence for our appreciation of Representative Jim Walsh? Really appreciate this guy. And I'm really glad he's sitting in on these committees.
And essential, and that it's important for policy to be consistent across the state. If this bill passes, is there a risk that local jurisdictions will want to extend this concept to more strict restrictions and local policies on other foundational rights, like the right to peaceably assemble for the common good and the right to not be disturbed in your personal affairs?
Or maybe how voting is carried out, maybe demanding that when you vote, you do so in person and you do so by after showing some identification, some verifiable state identification. Or maybe we could even allow laws to be created surrounding abortion and clinics and things of that nature. I mean, I'm not a lawyer here, but I would think this opens the door for some pretty nefarious things to occur in other ways that may not be acceptable for a lot of people. Some people always will agree with some really bad ideas, but for the pragmatic, well-thought, law-abiding citizen of Washington State, I don't think that they just want a bunch of small little laws being created about a quagmire, a minefield of laws that they have to navigate through just traveling throughout the state regarding almost anything.
Do you see that it could drift that direction?
I don't see it as a slippery slope, but I do see the Constitution is not a suicide pact. It's a balancing act. We constantly have to balance the rights of people that are enforcing their constitutional protections against the others.
I mean, it seems like here he's trying to say, well, we have to balance, and I believe this is what he's trying to say. We have to balance a person's constitutional right with the good of the people or the community. And I think that the recent Bruin decision actually went so far as to say, no, we can't do that anymore. We have to only stick to one step. Is something plainly constitutional? Okay, that's the only standard by which things are held, not what the weight of it is or the benefit to the community is, because there's a lot of unconstitutional things that are of the benefit to communities if you really want to think about it. Some really terrible things. History is full of times when communities decided, hey, this is good for us, but it's it's a terrible human thing.
And so even with the Second Amendment is broad enough to allow for reasonable gun regulations, particularly to protect communities that are under a siege of gun violence and crime.
Okay, thank you. Further questions?
I mean, the siege of gun violence and crime, it won't be affected because those are already criminals. You're allowing an environment of criminal behavior to flourish, okay? And now you want to take away a person's, potentially allow for smaller governments to take away a person's right to defend themselves in that state of lawlessness. It's pretty dangerous. And I think that looking at things like the way this gentleman is looking through is reckless.
All right, hearing none, thank you, Representative Hackney, for your time. We'll begin with public testimony. Madam Vice Chair.
So anyway, that's it. You know, it's a really straightforward bill. House Bill 1178. These are the representatives that drafted it. You can find this on the website, and it's right there. There's a lot of pitfalls and traps that could be set as a result of something like this, and I don't think that it's a good idea, and I hope you don't either. Having a state preemption is important so we all know exactly what the laws are when we travel within the beautiful state of Washington. And when guests from out of town or out of the state come in, they also are better equipped to deal with the laws of Washington state. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I may put a link down below to the comment section of this bill, and maybe put a cut and paste set or letter so that if you're interested, you might follow that link. You can cut and paste out of the description down below and submit it. Make sure you sign your name, you know, but basically it's just a form. It would be just a form letter that you can then just cut, paste, put your name on it, say here's some ideas on why you should oppose it, and feel free to add your own stuff. There's tons of reasonable, well thought out arguments against this unfortunate thing. So anyway, hope you're having a great day. We'll see you next time.